Right now, the internet is in a complete breakdown as rumors about Kirk Frost being poisoned transform into cries. According to frightening new claims recently released by a highly confidential medical source, Kirk's mystery illness wasn't natural, but doctors, you're correct, deliberate. Claimed to have found evidence of a rare, slow-acting poison in his body, and the twist is that they think illness originated from someone close to them rather than from food or medicine. His admirers are in disbelief. Those who have long followed Kirk and Rashida are now looking over previous videos, analyzing interviews, and looking for hints they could have overlooked because it's true that if someone truly desired Kirk to disappear, the question is who had the motivation and, more unsettlingly, the length of time they have been preparing. These emotions are out of control. Some are accusing former lovers, others are sizing up competitors in the corporate world. And some are even worse. Was Rashida involved in this video that we're releasing? Throughout the entire period, the scary hospital bombshell fan reactions, information that could completely alter our understanding of Kirk and his close circle. So be ready. This isn't just there was an eerie hush at the start of this play, which is treachery at its worst. It permeated Kirk Frost's typically active online persona, the man who consistently posted and showed up to events abruptly stopped happening, with no public appearances or Instagram posts. Fans started inquiring very immediately where there were no updates. Kirk, are things going well? At first, they thought it was simply another break. Celebrities steal the show, but Rashida, who frequently discloses too much about herself, didn't feel comfortable. Only one story was shared by followers, showing a dimly lit hospital hallway and a caption that said, "Pray." The fans were rocked by just one word. A day later, a grainy image began making the rounds on the internet. Perhaps taken by a photo showed Kirk being hurried into a medical room with his eyes closed and his body lifeless, surrounded by blobs. Caught it up right away, and nurses, the internet went crazy. Fans were startled. Theories began to circulate in the comments, with some speculating that it might have been a stroke or a heart attack. Nobody could have predicted what would happen. Next, a blogger who frequently leaked inside information about celebrities dropped a shocking revelation that Kirk hadn't simply passed out, but had been poisoned. And the toxin was something gradual, uncommon, and different from what you would discover in a normal overdose. Doctors found traces of a hazardous chemical in Kirk's blood after calculating the nurse's leak. Indicated intentional poisoning rather than something you might inadvertently consume. However, the blog said that doctors were astounded by the amounts in his system and internal organs after something was gradually administered in little dosages. Tests revealed that it wasn't any recreational drug and that it wasn't food poisoning. Was ethylene, a highly specific molecule commonly found in antifreeze. Glycol is a pleasant, odorless, and lethal substance that may easily go missing a meal or beverage, and the social repercussions were terrible. Fans were devastated and furious as the media erupted in pandemonium, using hashtags like #hashwadadist, #Prayfork, and Kirk Frost poisoned began to trend on Twitter. Demanded explanations, and strangely, Rashida's silence was the loudest. After the photo leak, she didn't post for 2 days in a row until finally breaking her silence with an ambiguous statement. "We need your privacy at this trying time. Please leave a comment below that." Post turned into a battlefield, with some followers offering support, others calling for the truth, and several outright accusing her of, "Why so quiet? You always post everything, and now your man is dying," the comment said. "And you're merely requesting privacy," which sounds strange because other people weren't very nice. Malik, Kirk's cousin, posted and removed a mysterious Facebook status late at night in a way that greatly increased suspicion. "You try to warn someone that not everyone smiling in their face is a friend's friend," Malik wrote in the post. Before he could remove the post, fans screenshotted it saying, "Poison comes with a kiss." People began analyzing it on social media within minutes, asking, was Malik pointing fingers? Did the family already harbor suspicions? When another aspect of the mystery was revealed, the drama grew more intense. Tony, Kirk's long-standing business partner, performed an impromptu Instagram live broadcast. "Kirk was like a brother. We built so much together," Tony remarked tearfully. "However, even though he was going through some difficulties, I never in a million years imagined he hesitated." Then added something terrifying. And the absurd thing is that he said someone would try to take him out like this. He told me that he had been feeling ill for weeks, and that he thought perhaps someone was monitoring him a week ago, was adding anything to his food, and those statements went viral, leaving admirers stunned. Kirk had a suspicion that something was incorrect, and nobody paid attention. What's even more unsettling is that Kirk allegedly informed a friend that he intended to. Someone close to the family revealed that Kirk recently talked about removing someone from his will and amending it. Although the leak did not provide names, rumors circulated among roof aficionados, assembling a risky puzzle, pondering who had a purpose, who stood to gain from Kirk's demise, and everything. As people looked more closely, Rashida, the only one who hadn't said much, came into focus. They discovered something strange about their recent past. Kirk and Rashida had been showing up together less and less during the last 2 months. No date nights, no joint. Rasha had been promoting her solo endeavors rather than business efforts. Was it a coincidence that she received new sponsorships and a new redesign under her name alone? Or was she getting ready for a future without Kirk? Followed by a voicemail from a woman named Tasha asserting that a former Rashida assistant posted a comment on a well-known gossip website in the "I was with them for more than a year, and there were arguments constantly," she wrote in the note. Kirk told me he wanted to leave the program in the spotlight, and he was considering doing just that. Rashida opposed his plans to move to Miami, arguing that he couldn't just up and leave when they had brand partnerships in place. When questioned if she believed Rashida had anything to do with it, I once overheard her screaming that she would be destroyed if he went. Tasha's hesitancy to respond to the poisoning soon revealed a lot. Following the anonymous disclosure of a former employee at one of their companies prior to his breakdown, Kirk reportedly complained of feeling unwell for weeks. He stated, every time he ate at home, he felt he joked that perhaps his wife was attempting to kill him after he became ill. Despite being expressed in a fair manner, it now has a sinister connotation, and the internet has taken it over and made it a headline. Fans were no longer merely worried. They were convinced after listening to podcasts that provided in-depth analyses of the timing. Was unquestionably incorrect, as one of Kirk's closest boyhood pals eventually broke down in tears in a heartfelt live broadcast. He claimed that Kirk was too intelligent to fall for a whim if it were poisoned, originated from someone who was familiar with his daily schedule and had daily access to him. The connotation was obvious, and the comment sections erupted once more with one name, Rashida. But as tension increased, yet another turn of events crashed into Kirk had momentarily recovered consciousness, according to the story that a hospital insider revealed. The source stated that although he hadn't fully recovered, he had opened his eyes and was able to speak a few words. "Who did this?" was said, and then he passed out once more. The family apparently stood there in silence. Medical personnel hurried in as they were in shock, but those 3 words set off a chain reaction like, if Kirk inquired who did this, it would be the first time he had ever felt like he had been attacked. Real fans suddenly desired justice and answers, and it wasn't simply paranoia. And they desired accountability, but the most unexpected turn of events was still to come. Who did this? People around Kirk's bedside froze, unable to comprehend what had just happened, as it passed through the hospital hallways like a curse. According to a witness, Rashida started crying right away. Some stated others claimed it appeared to be guilt, but it was actually out of terror. Couldn't have come at a more dramatic moment. Instead of suffering or being perplexed, his first thought was treachery. The kind that only comes from Kirk's room was apparently closed down by hospital staff after he was injured by someone nearby. Nobody owns except for direct family, and even then, there's only one. According to accounts, Rashida was the first person permitted to return at that time. Didn't go as planned. A nurse who asked not to be named revealed that Kirk. When Rashida entered the room, he became noticeably agitated and attempted to sit up, tugging at wires while his pulse rate spiked. Although the words were slurred, the nurse claimed to have heard him say, "Get her out." Rashida was swiftly. She was escorted out, her face pale and trembling, and the narrative didn't stay within. Fans were no longer merely speculating after someone revealed the nurse's report, which had been on the hospital walls for a while. Persuaded that Rashida was involved, the story took a sinister turn, and videos appeared on YouTube and TikTok. one analyzing each gesture, each phrase, and each second before Kurt's. The makers of the hospitalization played back old Love and Hip Hop videos highlighting instances in which Rashida appeared aloof or bitter. Viewers were now reading into a rediscovered clip in which Kirk accused her of harboring resentment for too long. Rashida was under so much strain that she attempted to do what seemed like a murder mystery. You guys have no idea why. Damage Control posted a video of her sitting in a candlelit room with her eyes puffy and her voice shaking. Despite the remarks, she stated, "Kirk is my husband, and I love him and would never do anything to hurt him." People who weren't nice labeled it crocodile tears and claimed that the video appeared to have been faked. One comment that went, others noted that there was no reference to the widespread claim that she was crying like someone vying for an Oscar. Poisoning, a nebulous request for peace, and no reference to the rumors, but the circumstances according to local reports. Things got even worse when the police got involved. Even though doctors were legally obligated to disclose the poisoning when the test findings verified foul play, which meant investigators were now formally looking into Kirk's case. And although no names were revealed to the public, news swiftly, as word got out that police had started interviewing family members, Kirk was the first person spotted arriving at the station. According to reports, the older son stayed inside for more than 2 hours and avoided reporters and declined to comment. But then a family friend who wished to stay anonymous revealed the largest leak to date. Kirk had been arranging to meet with a lawyer to rewrite a blog post that he had shared with them weeks before the incident. Additionally, it appears that he told this friend, "Don't trust the people if anything happens to me. Closest to me." The phrase quickly gained popularity after being picked up by news sites. Rashida entirely ceased blogging after the podcast's emergency episodes. As supporters were pointing fingers, another name subtly entered the discussion that hadn't been stated, that Tamika, Kirk's niece, had always been close to him, overseeing the backroom operations of his companies, but some individuals began making connections that didn't entirely make sense. When staff asked Tamika why she was in the hospital late at night, long after visiting hours, she allegedly grew hostile to depart, shouting, according to a nurse. Security was called, and she was taken out after saying, "He needs to tell me where he hid the damn papers." This incident made fans wonder whether Kirk's near-death experience was truly about money. His commercial ventures, real estate holdings, and music repertoire were all linked to internal conflicts over his estate. No small matter, following Kirk's previous actions, there were allegations that other persons had been excluded from future negotiations. Disputes with them, and everything's timing began to appear too opportune and calculated as the Kerr remained in and out of consciousness as the investigation progressed. He apparently had moments of awareness, but wasn't feeling good. Sufficient to provide a complete statement, investigators were collecting evidence while they awaited his testimony. A delivery receipt discovered in the Frost household's kitchen trash provided one significant lead. It revealed Kirk placed an internet order for a complex cleaning solution that included the same chemical that was discovered in his blood, had been delivered after being signed for by a person having access to the premises, but the name was smeared. When that information was disclosed, weeks before Kirk passed away, fans went into full detective mode and retrieved pictures of the kitchen examined surfaces and looked through old movies to find cleaning supplies that were visible in the backdrop. Turned into a digital crime scene. And the unifying element in all of these, whether it was fair or not, Rashida was the one who caused the mayhem. Rashida wasn't the only one who had determined that he was guilty unless proven innocent. Under investigation, Dion, Kirk's brother, abruptly shared a mysterious video from outside the hospital, saying, "Snakes move silently, giving you the impression that you know blood, but then they reveal their true selves." Stated that there would be no identities or explanations, but fans grabbed it and created hypotheses that blew. Some thought it was about Rashida, while some speculated that DM might have been referring to Tamika or Kirk's business partner. Tony, there were too many parts to the enigma, and each new post further fueled the fire, after which the local news channel received an anonymous complaint from someone saying to obtain security footage from the Frost residence, which had not yet been made public. Claimed to depict an altercation that took place in Kirk's kitchen the night before he collapsed, the tipster. Kirk said, "You've been putting things in my meal." The other guy replied, "You always think someone is out to get you, or perhaps you're simply paranoid." Kirk was discovered unconscious in bed the following morning, according to the video, was genuine and may expose the entire case, but Kirk's health was still in jeopardy, according to medical professionals. His liver and kidneys suffered severe damage while he was stable, and even if he recovered completely, he persevered, but there could be long-term consequences. The family was encouraged to get ready for tough choices, and Kirk's medical staff clarified that the poisoning was intentional and that time was crucial in identifying the offender whose emotions are running high and trust has been betrayed. Considering mysteries. The question that was on everyone's mind was no longer simply who. How deep was the treachery, considering that no one was safe if Kirk's inner circle was involved? Not because of suspicion, not because of the repercussions, and most definitely not because of the truth that was going to be revealed as Kirk's. The illness kept getting worse. The strain on his family reached a breaking point. The whispers began to circulate, and allegations caused everything to fall apart. The Frost family had once been united in front of the most vicious of forces now divided the cameras. Who could they trust? Trust, and more significantly, whom could Kirk trust if he ever recovered enough strength to identify the offender? Rashida, still in shock over the viral video, was in dire need of clarification after spending days confined in the hospital awaiting any indication of improvement. But every day felt like a new setback for her supporters of emotional stability. Weren't stopping whenever she made public appearances or shared anything on social media, with comments flooding her profiles. Accused her of participating in Kirk's poisoning, but friends and family members also started to even Kirk's friends, and family, who had previously shown her warmth, were suddenly wary and avoiding her. Look her in the eye without suspicion hovering over them. Amidst all of this, a police officer dropped another bombshell. According to an anonymous source, Kirk's blood samples underwent a second round of testing today. When the test results were received, they were even more unsettling because, in addition to the poison that was initially found, traces of a chemical commonly used in high-level assassinations observed in espionage cases. How did well-known Kirk end up consuming such a rare and hazardous substance? This finding shocked the media, and reporters and specialists were unable to quit discussing it and ask why Kirk would be singled out in this manner, and who would have access to such drugs. Was he being taken down by a professional hired to do it? Or was someone in his close circle using the media hysteria only made matters worse for Rashida, who was now not only charged with having access to hurt him for personal benefit, being both complicit in the poisoning and in its cover-up. If she attempted to speak out, she encountered severe rebuttals. The public's opinion was already decided, and she closed herself off because of the pressure, only permitting her close family members to visit her at this trying time. While the rumors increased, some admirers started to wonder if Kirk's own family had been complicit in a complex plot to seize. His niece, Tamika Kirk, was featured in multiple pirated videos. One of them depicted her having a heated discussion with Kirk just days prior, according to several watchers. The worst part of the event was captured on blurry video, which showed Kirk staring. "Tamika, you're always there when things go wrong," was said by someone who was obviously disturbed. "What's actually wrong with you?" Tom's voice was calm in response. Although fans weren't convinced by her statement that nothing is going on, stop being paranoid. Sure that the conversation was cool shortly after an unexpected things were further upended by a development, and Tama's social media accounts became silent. It seemed as though she had completely vanished. There were no updates, stories, or posts. Her disappearance for days only served to stoke the growing number of conspiracy theorists. That she had been silenced, or worse, was hiding, and the timing was. Additionally, the media quickly noticed that Tama had effectively gone dark, which was too much of a coincidence. Had she escaped? Had she been complicit in Kirk's poisoning? And if so, eyebrows. Why did she abruptly go silent as the public's focus shifted to Tama? Another development revealed a former Kirk's employee who collaborated closely with him on a number of business projects made a startling assertion. The person who wished to stay nameless further said, in the weeks preceding the poisoning, Kirk had been discussing a significant betrayal with reporters. He felt the former employee disclosed that someone close to him was planning to harm him, saying, "He told me it wasn't about money. It was regarding authority. He feared losing command of his life, career, and everything he had worked for." This claim sparked a wave of conjecture about who was attempting to. Was it Tamika Rashida Dion, or someone else who had authority over Kirk's life? Police detectives had started piecing together a troubling timeline at this point regarding Kirk's condition, fast declining following a particularly intense dispute with a family member a few days before the fall. According to reports, the dispute that occurred during a family get-together was about. According to people familiar with Kirk's business operations, Kirk was about to sever relations with the distance between him and several family members had been widening for months, and it affected the number of people he had previously trusted. It seemed that Kirk had finally had enough and had begun to prepare for protection. As the police investigation progressed, they experienced emotional and financial shifted. Their attention to the individuals who had known Kirk the best in his last days. Among them was his brother. Among the initial suspects interrogated, and although V had publicly shown support, there were rumors regarding his own Dion's financial difficulties had made him, like others, crave authority over Kirk's. However, although there were no unambiguous documents, he was believed to have participated in some of Kirk's financial dealings. Demonstrating the depth of his involvement, the police started looking into his finances to find any possible motive. Kirk's mother, who had been tearing apart the Frost family, maintained a low profile during the entire experience before. Speaking out in a rare interview, she remarked, "Kirk is a good man," expressing her shock and disbelief at what had happened to her son. "I don't know who could do something like this to him. He loved his family and would never hurt them," she said, her voice breaking. "Anyone." However, when additional information became available, people began to question, and even her protestations were unable to quell the rising suspicion. Was Kirk's mother the one who had been tricked into betraying him? Some even speculated that she might be a pawn in a bigger plot, but then the phone rang, and nobody saw it coming. The press was leaked a call from an unidentified number during which Kirk could be heard hardly able to talk, saying, "I know who did this, but I'm not allowed to reveal it just yet." Prior to the line cutting off, the fans and media outlets were rushing to decipher Kirk's last remarks after the video generated an instant uproar. Did Kirk know? Had he previously identified the poisoner? If so, why hadn't he named them? Was he shielding someone, or was he just too frail to do so? The rumors intensified with the strain on the family increased daily. Suspicions became accusations, and the trust that had no one could continue to conceal the truth from the question that formerly served as the cornerstone of their relationships. Still unknown was who had poisoned Kirk, why, and who benefited from his demise. As the investigation progressed, more complexities surfaced, but it was evident that everyone had something to conceal. As Kirk's health worsened, the public's anxiety over the media frenzy surrounding him reached a fever pitch. Couldn't stand the rumors, and his family's strain only increased with each action they took. Examined, each word they spoke was transformed into something more sinister, and the police probe was getting closer to the truth, but none could have predicted what they would find next. Kirk was caught in the middle of the interwoven web of lies, betrayals, and rumors from which it appeared difficult to break out. The family was completely upended by a startling, unexpected discovery just when they believed they had reached their lowest point. On the night Kirk was poisoned, a new witness came forward and said they saw something important. According to this person, Tamika's buddy disclosed a shocking revelation that nobody had anticipated. In the days preceding Kirk's breakdown, she was consistently in. The witness claimed to have witnessed her leaving Kurt's in a rush, as if she had something to conceal. House late at night, and she was with a man I'd never seen before, not alone herself, seen prior to the fact that she was obviously anxious about something. This testimony sent shockwaves throughout the investigation, posing further queries regarding Tamika's potential involvement. The one who poisoned Kirk, or was she merely a player in a larger plot? The witness's testimony was sufficient to force detectives to re-examine Tamika's location that evening. Regarding the man Tamika was spotted with, who he was, why he was. With her, and what the more investigators discovered that Tama had been hiding, the more they wondered if he was aware of Kirk's poisoning. A thorough examination of her social media accounts showed a string of mysterious posts in the weeks preceding Kirk's medical conditions, appeared to suggest a rift within the family, and fans commented on one of her posts. Sometimes it's better to keep your enemies close. And detectives alike were left wondering, was Tamika attempting to convey a message to them? As though the circumstances wasn't complicated enough, Dion Kirk's brother was thrown once more in a startling discovery. into the public eye following the discovery of a string of enigmatic transactions that authorities found Dion had made. The timing of multiple sizable withdrawals from Kirk's personal accounts in the weeks before his fall was extremely dubious, which sparked suspicions right away. Was Dion involved in Kirk poisoned him because he had been stealing from his brother and now saw a chance to get rid of him? As investigators dug deeper into Dion's finances, a more nuanced picture emerged than anybody had anticipated. Saw a vision of Dion's attorney but promptly denied any misconduct. Dion had been Kurt's faithful brother for years. The attorney said during a news conference that there is no proof whatsoever to imply that he was involved in Kirk's regrettable illness in any way. Are unfounded and unfounded in fact, yet the public wasn't persuaded. Media outlets and fans started to doubt Dion's intentions. Some even charged him with attempting to take advantage of his brother's crisis to gain control of Kirk's assets, and Rashida discovered that Kirk's close circle was being targeted by the probe. She had already been held accountable for Kirk's condition and was now facing the biggest test of all. She was suffering because of the charges. The media's fixation on her involvement only grew, and each time when she stepped outdoors, the cameras were watching her every action, portraying her as the antagonist in a perverted said to have poisoned her spouse and participated in a wider plot to seize control of his life. It seemed like everything had gone against her. Her friends, family, and even admirers were starting to doubt her. Despite everything going on, Rashiva's emotions were running high, was simultaneously enraged, hurt, and afraid. She had to establish the record. Straight to give her version of events, but despite her best efforts, the tidal wave of she felt that the only way to combat the negativity around her was to strike back. Rashida eventually dropped the charges and the suffering she endured. During a tearful interview with the well-known TV presenter, "I never wanted this to happen," she murmured, her voice shaking after surviving. "I would never hurt Kirk because I love him so much. No one is more heartbroken, more important than me at the moment. But it's not only about me, it's about our family and our future. We must remain united and discover the truth." Although her statements were honest and open, they didn't have the desired effect on her. Instead, admirers. Many detractors remained dubious. Some even charged her with exploiting Kirk's near-death encounter to win people over. Rashida battled to defend her name because the media had portrayed her as guilty, and no amount of pleading would change that. Following weeks of quiet from the doctors, Kirk's health. He was still unable to move or speak on his own even after his health was ultimately stabilized. But the fact that the doctors were cautiously hopeful, but they cautioned that Kirk's road to recovery was a wonder that he was still alive. Be lengthy and unpredictable, and Kirk was exposed to several rounds of interrogation, even though he was weak. The detectives were committed to obtaining the information they required to understand who poisoned Kirk, and they wouldn't give up until they learned in one of the few interviews Kirk was able to give, and he looked tired but clear. "I know who, I can't say it yet," but he did this in a barely audible whisper. The room shook as Kirk said that he knew who had attacked him, but he was unable to identify him. Was someone he was shielding, or was he too afraid to identify? Fans, the media, and the drama surrounding Kirk's poisoning left his family in anticipation, listening to every word he spoke. Theories concerning Kirk's poisoning persisted, and it appeared that the truth was still just out of grasp. Some thought the attack was motivated by Kirk's financial circumstances, while others assumed, as the investigation went on, it became clear that it was something more personal, possibly a betrayal from someone he had trusted. It became evident that the issue was much more complex than anyone had anticipated, with the drama, deceit, and secrets. The most important question was still who was responsible for Kirk's poisoning, even though everything was leading to something disastrous. And when, as Kirk's road to rehabilitation progresses, will the truth finally surface? The family's anxiety only seemed to increase, and Kirk Frost's poisoning investigations were far from over. From the beginning, and the shocking charges made against Tamika, Kirk's sister-in-law, had caused chaos for the whole family. But just when everyone believed they had reached a breaking point, another in a startling turn of events, Kirk, who was still hardly aware, managed to whisper. Kirk said, his voice barely audible, "It's something that would send the whole family into a tailspin again." Was someone else not Tamika. The crowd fell silent, and his remarks weren't only a confession but a radical change in the course of the inquiry. For weeks, Tamika had been Kirk's statement after being suspected of poisoning his in-law changed the course of the case. Who was he now accusing? And what did he mean when he said that the doctor's hurried to breathing became difficult for him, as he tried to comprehend what Kirk was trying to communicate? Was this a flash of insight when his body grew weak and his eyes glazed with bewilderment? Or was Kirk just hallucinating from the trauma? Everyone in the room was frantically trying to find answers, but the Tamika's face turned pale as she listened, from the corner of the room as the mystery grew deeper by the second. Was she indeed framed? Or was this an attempt to hide her identity? Rashida, who had been fighting to protect her family and maintain their stability, was forced to pick up the pieces once more. Her spouse was experiencing emotional distress, and she had been coping with the strain of Kirk's illness, media craze, and now that she knew this new information, she went to the doctors asking for any glimmer of hope. "What's this?" Her voice broke with passion as she asked. "Who is Kirk?" Referring to, and is this actually taking place? The physicians could only reassure them that Kirk's state was still shaky, so it was difficult to determine if what he said was accurate or merely the product of his weakened state. But the harm was already done because Kirk's recent speech was reported by the media, and soon Kirk's unexpected confession to his family was the talk of the town, with headlines blaring. Fans are astonished by the new twist and who poisoned Kirk Frost, while Tamika had to defend herself once more. But in a tearful interview, the strain was worse than ever. Denied any role in Kirk's poisoning with tears in their eyes, saying, "I'm devastated by Kirk's poisoning. I never wanted to hurt him. Despite everything that has transpired, I vowed to never taint Kirk's." She was clearly distressed, and her emotions were genuine, but the charges are just beyond my comprehension. Her remarks didn't appear to persuade everyone, and opinions among the public were divided. After Kirk's surprising declaration, some people started to trust him, but others remained faithful to Tama's calling. She was the victim of a miscommunication, but what about the other members of the family? Rashida was inconsolable since they were beginning to suspect that there was more going on. She had already been coping with enough allegations of her role in Kirk's deterioration from the media and her admirers. Now with Kirk's most recent, Rashida said, "I know my family," adding fuel to the fire that made her more determined than ever to discover the truth. With the local news station in a tearful interview, "Because I know Kirk, I'm still trying to comprehend all that's happening, but I'll never blame someone without cause." As the police began looking into Kirk's business operations as the investigation progressed, and additional surprises were discovered in the establishment. Kirk had always been an accomplished businessman, but he was searching for any hints that would indicate who might have poisoned him. He had many adversaries, like many in the entertainment business, and the more they learned, the more they understood how the shock occurred, as it appeared that Kirk's family was not the only one, with secrets and that many others had reasons to hurt them. Something nobody anticipated when Kirk's financial investigators performed a normal check, discovered a string of odd transactions in which Kirk had been sending substantial quantities of money to an unidentified. The money was moved into account, one which was unrelated to any family members or business partners. The weeks before Kirk became ill, and the sums were unusually high. The media jumped on this right away, asking who was responsible for these transactions and whether they were related to the poisoning. The headlines cried out, "New development! Did Kirk have a secret lover behind these mysterious payments?" Some wondered if Kirk had been blackmailed, while others conjectured that he had been in a covert romance. Could these enigmatic payments be a hint that he poisoned Tamika? Found herself in the public eye once more despite having no direct link to the cash she rejected. Any participation, but the public was starting to wonder if she had been concealing something. That if Tamika had been aware of the payments and had concealed them for personal gain, she had been shielding someone else. The family was split apart, more and more as the inquiries mounted, and Rashida was in a state of complete incredulity. She had worked so hard to maintain the family's unity, but now it felt Kirk was still struggling for his life, and it seemed like everything was falling apart. With the media analyzing every aspect of, she became defensive when people asked her about the most recent events in their lives, saying, "I'm just trying to be there for Kirk," she said in a tearful statement to the press. I don't have all the answers, but I'm not giving up on him. As the investigation deepened, the family began to unravel. Each new piece of evidence seemed to suggest a deeper conspiracy, one that no one had ever imagined. Kirk's poisoning was no longer just about one person's betrayal. It was a family drama of epic proportions involving money, secrets, and lies, and as Kirk continued to fight for his life, no one knew who they could trust. In the end, it was clear that the truth was far from simple. The poisoner had not yet been found, but the consequences of Kirk's poisoning were being felt by everyone around him. The family was fractured, and the damage to their relationships was immeasurable. Trust was shattered, and no one knew who to turn to next. Kirk's fight for survival was still ongoing, but the battle within the family was only just beginning. Who would come out on top in this twisted saga? Only time would tell. So now you've seen the shocking twists, the emotional breakdowns, and the devastating accusations surrounding Kirk. Frost's mysterious poisoning, Ika's emotional denials, and Kirk's fate yet haunting words that shook the entire family. This story has spiraled into something no one saw coming. And the truth, well, it still remains buried beneath layers of betrayal, confusion, and heartbreak. But what do you think really happened? Was Kirk's moment of clarity a real breakthrough, or just a hallucination caused by his fragile state? Do you believe Tamika is innocent? Or could she be hiding something darker? And what about those strange money transfers? Do they point to a secret plot? Or is someone else pulling the strings from the shadows? We want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments right now and tell us what you believe is the real truth behind this twisted story. Who do you think wanted Kirk gone? And why your opinions matter. And you might just spot the detail that everyone else missed. If you were shocked by the twists in this story, make sure you hit that like button. It helps us bring you even more unbelievable stories just like this. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications because the story isn't over yet. More secrets are about to come out, and you won't want to miss a single update we're following. Every lead, every interview, and every clue until the full truth is exposed, so stay tuned. Stay curious and keep watching because in the world of fame, family, and betrayal, nothing is ever what it seems.